Is your old Pokemon card collection worth some money like this is? Maybe. Hey, my name is Gary. I'm the Card Father. It was a pretty windy day today here in Ohio and a little more colder than normal. It was kind of an interesting day. But hey, I got some really cool things we want to talk about. So let's just jump right into it. So I don't know how many times this question's been posed to me. I mean, I've been asked several times. I've been to a couple of colored shows on my own, just selling and buying and trading and doing all the cool things. I've been asked by friends. I've been asked by family, which is a little odd because most of my family doesn't really know or care that I do this. Anyway, but I have been getting a ton of questions recently from people that I know in regards to how do I find the value of my cards? In fact, in Pokemon groups on Facebook and in Discords that I've been a part of, that's one of the questions. Like, hey, I'm a newbie here. I need to know, how do I find the value of this card? And it turns out maybe that card's not even worth like 5 cents. But hey, it doesn't matter. Every card has value, right? But the thing is like the question still exists. And so I was like, I'm going to YouTube this and find out exactly how many people have gone through and tried to tell you how to value your cards. Well, to be honest, there's a lot.
Like a lot, a lot?
And that's a little concerning because a lot of the people have a lot of different views and a lot of different value points about what your card collection would be worth and what each card would be worth in its own or in a whole lot. And so that's the kind of problem that I'm seeing, is that everybody's using something completely different. They're using collector, or they're using pokelector, or they're using some other like weird, obscure like listing system that's called, chicken doodle. I don't know. But they're using maybe Maven, for example. I've never even heard of Maven. And quite frankly, what is Maven? It sounds like a name from Hotel Transylvania or something.
Yeah,
Anyway, but here's the thing. The idea behind valuing your cards is actually pretty legit, and it's a pretty important process. And not just conditioning your cards or keeping them safe, like, away from dogs and cats and water damage. Valuing your cards is an important piece because then it tells you what your card value really is. And if you decide to go and sell your cards one day, you'll know the value and you won't get undershot at all when it comes to making sure you're getting the right price. Now, I'm not telling you, and I'm not saying I'm a 100% complete expert. I am not giving you financial advice, nor am I a lawyer, nor am I telling you how to get out of that parking ticket that you accidentally got the other day because you didn't know that that was a handicap zone. But I am going to tell you here how to value your cards. So here's the first thing. You got to do some research, right? Research is a key piece to this process. And I'm going to be honest with you, as a buyer, seller, trader, collector, just general short dude in Ohio.
Your jokes are sounding desperation, my friend.
Amen, brother.
I use TCGPlayer. I use TCGPlayer because it is the #1 standard for card valuing. Why? Because they set the market. That is the place where everybody will turn to tell you what your cards are worth. They're going to look it up. They're going to look up your card. They're going to type in Umbreon, and it's going to be from Evolving Skies, and it's that alt artwork, the one that's like $650 right now. They're going to look at that. They're going to find what that card value is by going to TCGPlayer. In fact, every YouTuber, TubeUber, PokeTuber, Tube Pokier, across the board, seller, collector, person, every person I know that I speak to uses TCGPlayer. Now, you can use other formats and systems such as Collector or Maven or whatever other ones are there, like Pokelector, if you really want to do that, and that's okay. But the brand standard is TCGPlayer. Why? Because they have the largest inventory and the most sellers, and they can see and have all the data associated to what that card is doing when it's doing it. And by the way, if you open a fresh pack of Pokemon cards on a new release day and you think you're going to get $100 because you found the chase card, well, you better list it and get it sold quickly, because what it is a race to the bottom.
Yes, preach.
9 times out of 10. Anyway, my rant is over. My soapbox is gone. Join me on TED for next week's discussion. Anyway, so here's the thing. TCGPlayer's app is really robust. It lacks a few things because I'm not real fond of how some of it works. I've actually had conversations with TCGPlayer about this and given them some feedback, and I submit feedback to them all the time. But anyway, when you use their app, you can scan the cards. And that's one of the things that's the hardest, is scanning the cards, because it doesn't like to scan hollows and reverse hollows really well. But besides the point, you can scan the cards in, and what it's going to do is it'll give you the ability to set your value based on the condition, the set, and then it'll show you all the history, such as like the print type, whether it's hollow, reverse hollow, maybe it's unlimited, maybe it's base set, maybe it's first edition, whatever card type you use. And because you're going to be able to scan that in, it'll then set it, and it'll set up a collection system for you. You can actually save your collections as well. The cool thing about this is that that's market time data. It's real time data. So it's taking back from the history of when that card was released or when those packs were released, and it's positioning it and telling you in real time. You can go back 3, 4, 5, 10 months later, and you can actually see that the data changes, and you can see the market value by looking at the card, taking a look at the value of the card, and moves forward. So I would highly recommend you use TCGPlayer. I don't think it's a valuable tool to use something else at the moment, because a lot of these other tools will actually pull in TCGPlayer data, and that's okay. So I mean, you could use Maven or you use Pokelector, but I don't think they offer the actual robust functionality that TCGPlayer's market data can give you. So I would recommend going there. Now, let's talk about your graded cards. Graded cards, wow. Graded cards are tough because there is actually no real set standard for that except for eBay comps and using price charting. I found price charting when I first started this adventure. I thought it was very useful. I emailed the developer. I said, hey, I would love to have an account. How do I do that? He set me up with an account. He told me what to do. And then I started putting my collection in there, and I started funneling through and getting some ideas about what collections would be and how much the cards would be. And then I started looking for their graded comps. And see, that's the thing about price charting. Every one of these tools is going to have a little bit of an issue, but price charting was actually really good because it actually takes the cumulative total of all the graded cards. Now, the issue with that is that it takes a cumulative total of all the graded cards, regardless of their condition or regardless of their stance. Now, it does take it into effect, like if it's a PSA card and it was listed as a PSA 9 and it sold for $60, and then another listing came in, it was a PSA die that sold for $45, right? So it's going to take the average of those two. But the problem that you're going to start seeing is that there are some crazy ones in there, like Japanese and other versions of the card that you may weren't aware of it. And that's okay, so that's fine. You have to kind of give and take with that. But it's a pretty good indicator because it does take comps. But eBay last sold or sold listings is your number one game changer here. This will help you. So you got to make sure you put in the right keyword search, because that whole keyword search thing is crazy. It works and then it doesn't work. But anyway, you got to type in Pokemon 151, Charizard, EX 199, right? PSA 10. Make sure you add the actual grade and grade company, because that's going to pull up all of the listings, and it'll help you understand exactly what those things are doing. Now, there are other tools out there like Collector or Cardbase, and then there are other places such as like PSA, AGS, BGC, CGC, DGC, FBI.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Like all those places will give you a good base of what the population is. And that's an important piece to card valuing on your graded cards, because population helps to set the standard of how valuable the card really is, right? So if you find a Charizard base set, unlimited, for $2.99 because it's a PSA 8, okay, a PSA 9, for example, and it's like 14,000 population, that card's valuability is going to be really low. But if you found, say, for example, this Machamp from Skyridge, and he was a PSA 9, right? And he's a hollow, but he's only got maybe 100 of him graded at a PSA 9, and the rest are below that. The value of that card has increased, and that's cool, because that's going to help you understand, for example. So make sure you're taking the right tool, you're looking at the right piece of the puzzle, and you're looking at the right information. But the thing that I'll tell you the most is probably the last piece of this puzzle, but also the most important, is deciding where to sell. Okay. Being a seller is not easy. Go check out this other video here about my rant on being a seller and how difficult people don't seem to understand why it's that difficult, because that's an important tool here, is knowing where to sell your cards. You're going to have all kinds of places that you can do, but there's a lot of dangers for each one. Some of them have higher risk, some of them have less, some of them have higher fees, some of them don't. Some of them require you to do XYZ, where the other ones are kind of like you got to have a business license. Like, there's a whole lot of things that go along with that. But I think your main concerns are going to be whether it be Facebook Marketplace, whether it be eBay, whether it be TCGPlayer, or maybe it's your local card store and local game shop, right? And then you're going to have to determine that. But here's what I'm going to tell you. The dangers that are selling your cards through a marketplace like eBay, Facebook, TCGPlayer, is you're going to get hit with fees.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Fees are a big thing. And then you have to not only take in fees to account, but then you also have to take in shipping, because you may charge for shipping, but some of these places, they take all of their fees off the total cumulative, which is tax, title, appreciation, shipping, and of course, processing. They take all those totals off and siphon that out, and then you're left with a chunk, and you still have to pay shipping on top of that, right? Okay, so
Math, 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 math.
you have to make sure you're positioning yourself in the right place to sell your cards. And that's the hardest part about selling cards, as to whether you should be doing it through marketplace or not. If you sell on Facebook, that's great. Most times you're going to get more local buyers at that point. So of course, remember, you can get scammed pretty easily. So follow the Facebook rules, go to safe places, don't be alone, take your Greninja with you. Anyway, and get that thing or item sold, and just do it wisely. But you can do it through Facebook Marketplace pretty well. Instagram, they don't offer the listings, but if you have like a store or an online website, you can do that too. You can link it all anyway, but you understand that. Okay. But you'll need to understand the market. You'll need to understand its temperature. And then, of course, you'll need to know who you're selling to. So most times when you're selling through, like, say, Facebook Marketplaces or through Facebook groups, there's a lot of us in there. Like, there's a lot of sellers and buyers in there. There's some collectors, right? You're gonna get the collectors in there, but there's a lot of me in there, right? There's a lot of others of me in that group. And what we're doing is we're hunting for good bargain deals, good deals that we can get cards in, so that we can then turn around, condition, and flip them, right? So that's the idea. So you got to be careful when you're selling in like a Facebook Marketplace group or a Facebook group, because you're going to find a lot of people who are like me, where we're looking for good deals. And sometimes you're going to find collectors, people who don't want to sell cards or don't want to buy cards, rather, at a specific rate. So if you're looking to sell a card, you got to make sure it's within your while. Like, I mean, you'll see people who are trying to sell cards at like 80 to 90 to 95% of TCG player value, and that's fine. You might get a collector who's like really in need of that card, or really wants that card for their collection, or thinks it's a really dope card, even if it's damaged, and they'll be like, yeah, I'm willing to pay 95% TCG player. That's great. So you made a win there, because all you're going to pay is probably a PayPal goods and services fee outside of that, and you're all set, right? Or if you decide to go lower, now you're looking at a little bit less money that you're getting on the value of your card. And that's totally acceptable too. But it's completely up to you how you want to sell. So make sure you're doing it correctly. If you're using places like eBay or TCGPlayer, those are really good places to get exposure quickly. So you can online sell there and get your value pretty quickly. But again, you're going to be paying fees. Okay. So now here's the issue that you're going to have, is that every card is, like I said before, is a race to the bottom. And if you see yourself getting there, you're going to see people are going to start undercutting on marketplaces. They're going to undercut quickly. Okay. I'll give you a prime example. The Iron Crowns EX card from Temporal Forces, that one right there. That card is a beautiful, beautiful example of what happened. We can even take Morty's Conviction, which is actually kind of going up because somebody bought them all, and then it price is like starting to rise again. But anyway, we'll get into that later. But Iron Crowns, or if you go into anything other than like the other Skylight and Violet. So like if you go Skylight and Violet base set, like the Miriam card, for example, this one, that Miriam card was like $100. Okay, brand new, spanking, beautiful card. I got one. I pulled one. I was impressed that I pulled one. In my first like 3 or 4 packs I ever opened since I was a kid, I pulled one. I went and got it. I created a PSA. PSA 10 came through. I sold it for 160, right? So that was the idea. That was one of my first ventures into selling cards, was getting that card graded. But the difficulty with doing so was the fact that it was a race to the bottom. That card now, today, I believe is like $22. Don't believe me? Go check it. TCGPlayer.com. Go look it up. Miriam, Scarlet Violet base. It's like a $22 card. And we're only a year past Scarlet and Violet being it. So you have to be very careful, okay? It's a race to the bottom. You're also going to lose money on fees, so be careful you're doing that. Make sure you're checking out what your percentages are with eBay or TCGPlayer, and you're accounting for that in your sell, okay? And again, if you're selling on places like Facebook Marketplace, do it safely. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure you've got a lot of information about your card and that you don't get scammed. Right, but I can tell you that selling on Facebook Marketplace can actually probably take a lot longer than if you were to sell it through like TCG or eBay. It's just one of those things. All right. Now, the one that I'm going to discuss here, and then we're going to close out on this video, but the one that I'm going to discuss here is your local card shop and your local game store. So I love my local game store. Little Root, if you're watching this video, I love you guys. You guys are fantastic. I want to be you when I grow up. Yes, I said you. I want to be like you, Little Root, when I grow up. But if you go to your local game store, oftentimes there's a little hesitancy in selling it at a local game store. If you're hard pressed for cash because you got a card collection and you really need to make up the money, that's probably the quickest way you're going to get your money out of your cards, right? Your value of your cards. So if you're valuing your cards, you can take them to a local game store. They'll help you understand what the value in the cards are. But 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get 80% of that. You're not going to even get 40, 50%. Mostly, sometimes you might even get 40%. You might get 30%. I know some card shops that actually only take in cards at 30%. But then they offer some really good deals on store credit where you get 30% plus 25 in store credit. So, I mean, you're getting a pretty good deal there, right? At that point in time. Or they're offering 70% store credit for trading in your cards. And you're going to use that in their store, right? So that's a really good trade off. But you just want to be careful because some local card shops, they don't offer that. Like they're not doing a really good buy-in program, or they're not offering something really well. They're just buying in at the lowest possible percentage, and they're expecting you to have no clue about your prices and what your market is on your cards. So with that being said, be careful out there. Value your cards properly. Use the right tools. Get yourself in the right position. Understand what your cards are. And if you do go to sell them, please make sure you're doing it correctly and safely, but also make sure you're doing it to get the most value. All right. I really appreciate your time. Hey, listen, we are just a handful away and from 200, and we are even more of a handful, maybe just slightly more than a handful away from 250 subscribers. And I would just absolutely be over the moon if I could hit 250 subscribers. It's my goal to hit it by the end of April. And in fact, if I have to push that into May, I would be more than happy to. But my goal is to hit 250. And when I do, I'm giving away something awesome. We're going to do a live stream. I'm going to do some crack packing, and I'm going to open up an Elite Trainer box live for you as a gift. And we're going to give that away to one lucky subscriber. So please like this video, subscribe, follow. It's easy. It's a free thing. I'm not asking you to do very much, but it's free and it's easy. Leave a comment for me. I love to communicate with the people in the community. I love to talk to people who love the same things I love and have questions or like to just comment and goof off in the comments. I do that too. So, but I'd love to get to 250. I'm asking for your help. So please do so. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. It means a whole lot to me. So, as always, you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.